Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Swissman15, and welcome to this new series called Famous Battles. Basically, this series will entail summaries of historical battles in the past that have strategic or other significance that is worthy of knowing, and it's just going to be summaries of these battles using just diagrams and everything, and I'll explain what happened, and you can try and take the persona of the underdog general or whoever is creating the feat to see what they did and see maybe how you would have thought of it if you don't know the battle already. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I stumbled across this idea because I was looking at these battles, because after I found one online myself, I saw something along the lines of what I'm doing now for one of Caesar's battles, and I'm like, hey, I want to see more of this. And the guy who made that video had only three other battles, four total. And I was like, oh, I wanted more. And I tried to look it up online. The only things else I could find were 40-minute documentaries, usually Rome Total War as the basis of visualization, which I just could not bear to look at. So I decided to make my own series on famous battles, so it'll be just basic of what happened, the overview of the entire battle, the different strength, the compositions, and who's involved, and everything. It'll be great. So this one is going to be the Battle of Leuthen. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Leuthen? Yeah, I think it's Germanic. It's in modern-day Poland, actually in Silesia. A little background, it's during the 7 Years' War, where Prussia is trying to annex Silesia for its own industrial concerns and such. So Frederick II of Prussia and Prince Charles Alexander of Lorraine are fighting it out. Frederick II, you may also know him as Frederick the Great. Technically, though, the reason I'm putting him as Frederick II here is because he hadn't had the title yet when he fought this battle, and Prince Charles is of Austria. So it's Prussia versus Austria, and we'll show you the situation right about now. So, what the hell happened to my verses? I don't care. Anyway, it was a lot better a while ago. Now it's like that. I don't know why. So we have Frederick II. Look at him, so majestic with that cane and everything. And then we also have Prince Charles, who looks a little bit dopey to me, at least in this photo of him. Well, not photo, but picture. So he's quite nice. A little majestic, but a little bit strange with the flowing hair in the wind. But now, Frederick II was trying to take Silesia from Prince Charles and Austria. The Habsburg dynasty had control over it, of course. And basically what occurred was Prince Charles raised an army in defense, and Frederick had his own, but Prince Charles had a much more powerful army. Frederick II, he had 35,000 to 36,000 troops. Of that, there are 167 guns, like cannons and such, big field guns, heavy artillery. And he also had 133 squadrons of cavalry. Now, I may want to note that a lot of these numbers are disputed. They are ranges or estimates, so we don't know the exact numbers, but you know the idea, especially in comparison to what Prince Charles is estimated to have, which is 66,000 troops, which is almost double of what Frederick II has, so almost a 2-to-1 ratio, but not quite. And then 220 guns, which is significantly more than him, almost double once again. And ironically, a little bit less cavalry, at least squadrons-wise. Assuming they're the same size, I don't know, but I'm going based on it, and it seemed like it in the battle review, which we'll get to in a second. So, as you can see, Prince Charles definitely has the advantage numerically and everything, and he is on a sort of defense. He's trying to recapture what he lost to Frederick II during the 7 Years' War thus far. So, let me show you what we have here. This is going to be a crude diagram. It's not drawn to scale or anything, but it's just enough for you to know what's going on. So try not to mock my dimensions and how it looks. It's just for your understanding of what actually happened. So, in white over here, we have Frederick the Great's army, or Frederick II, I don't know why. Frederick II! Ugh! And then over here we have Prince Charles's army. Of course, I don't have anything to scale, like cavalry-wise, or how much it is, or ratio-wise. Just trying to show that he had more, and Frederick had less. And I did give him exactly double of the infantry, just hoping for some sort of continuity. So what we have is a few small towns. So of course, you have Leuthen there, Frobelwitz, Borna, Lobelitz, and Sagschutz. I don't know how to pronounce any of these. I'm sorry, I'm butchering them all, but that is the case. Now, these funky little wiggly lines here are supposed to represent low hills that were in the region that become significant later. So, I want you to take a look at the battlefield and how it's arrayed. Of course, Frederick the Great, he starts off right in Berna. This is not to scale, and this is Prince Charles' army. And let me give you some background. So, Prince Charles, knowing that Frederick II is notoriously good at flanking, it's his favorite strategy ever, is deploying a wide line 4 miles across, which is more than Frederick the Great could hope to even try to flank if he went for a straight-out attack with his size forces. So Prince Charles is playing to his strength of more troops and trying to go weaken the strength of his opposer, which is a smart idea at first. So Frederick the Great, who knows if he retreats or loses, it'll be a huge setback for Prussia and could lose him the war overall. So I want you to assume Frederick II's position and pause the video now if you don't know what already happened and try to think what you would do in the situation. You see the towns, you see the terrain that's significant, and try to make up your mind. So just pause it now. All right, for any of you who paused, welcome back. So what we have now is Frederick the Great and Prince Charles. That's already been determined. So you have your own theories. Let's see how it matches up with what Frederick the Great actually did. So he does have better cav than Prince Charles does overall, but cav is not the main factor in this. Of course, it's all about the infantry, the heavy infantry, not heavy infantry, but heavy line infantry with the good muskets, good shooting capability, and bayonet skills. So what we had is Frederick the Great didn't know how to attack because he can't do a frontal assault against a 4-mile wide line. He can't outflank that, and he wants to flank. So he wants to keep his strength, though, and he still wants to flank. So this is what he does. Going to the next slide here, he takes some of his cavalry, which is represented by the box of the line through. Those are cavalry. I don't know if I explained that. And we also have the infantry. And he goes from the hills, he goes through Borna and towards Frobelwitz, and he tries to bluff an attack on the right flank and try to make it look like he's trying to overwhelm that flank and surge around, which is what Prince Charles is like, okay, I know he wants to flank, I'm going to be ready for that. So what he does is that he takes a bunch of troops to meet him. Meanwhile, he takes his reserves and other troops from the left side of his flank and brings them over to the right flank. He leaves his weaker troops, the ones that are less likely to win in a fight, on his left flank. Meanwhile, Frederick the Great takes the bulk of his forces and he sends them through the behind the low hills, around Borna and Lobowitz, and he hides them. The other Austrian army cannot see it. They don't know that they're doing that. They think that most of the forces are over here, so they have no idea there's a train scurrying. It's completely hidden, at least to the eyes of the Austrians. So it's a good move. He's hiding, the army vanishes. He's just marching in long columns right beneath the hills and the valleys behind it. They're low hills, not like mountains, but they're enough to cover the army and his artillery and everything. So Prince Charles thinks that Frederick the Great's going for a hard attack on his right flank. So he's ready and he is preparing for it. He's done all the accurate measures, but the thing is that he didn't realize that Frederick the Great is going to play into his strength of flanking the significant way, not the significant way, but the more in-depth way and ingenuity with cunning and valor. He's going to sort of ambush, not quite ambush, but more of sneak around, stealth-like, and go attack from where Casualties is on the left flank of his lines. So what we have next is that the initial force, the diversion force over here, Frederick the Great, starts to retreat, and since the Austrian army no longer sees the Prussians, they assume, oh, he's retreating. It makes sense. He has got a much smaller army. Why would he stay and fight if he's already losing the fight over here? Which was supposed to happen. So he is confident in his victory. They're chasing after these troops, of course, and eventually give up. But meanwhile, Frederick the Great troops, they take a turn at Lobowitz and head to Casualties. So they went from here to here in the cover of the hills. And that leads us to the next point where we have the flank. The ultimate flank, really, is that this weak flank with the weak troops that Austria didn't trust to be on the flank heavy right, which they assumed that Frederick the Great would attack, that he would swarm the right, so the other ones can just hold the line over here. They don't need much help. And they left them there, and then luckily for Frederick the Great, or Frederick II, I need to get that straight. Luckily for Frederick the Second, he was ready to take them on, and he rushes them with his forces. He's got his cannons back, firing across the lines, devastating them, which they eventually start returning fire, the Austrians, but the cannons first have to turn and aim and everything, so he does have the advantage over there. Meanwhile, in this red box, this is the diversion force, highly depleted, but it's outside of the scope of this map, because you see I cut out Borna over there. This army is sort of chasing after them. It's just away from the fight. Now, keep in mind that this is a 4-mile-long front, so Frederick the Great is just swarming the right flank with the less capable troops, and they are not ready to handle such the full front of Frederick's forces, especially the cav unit that has no other cav to fight off. It can just flank and flank and flank. So, with the guns and the massive hordes of trained Prussian infantry coming at these recruits of the Austrians, not really capable, and even some say Prussian sympathizers, they don't do too well, especially when they get surrounded like this. And you have the other force, the diversion force, eventually comes back around to support this flank. And by the time that Prince Charles realizes what's happening, he's sending his forces to meet the new flank. He's like, oh my god, they're actually attacking. However, they're 4 miles away. This is 4 miles. This guy here is 4 miles away from that guy way over there. So it takes a long time to get over, is what I'm trying to say. So by that time, those troops have routed. They're gone. Recruits, bye-bye. And Frederick is encompassing the remainder of the troops. This unit and these units are still trying to get around. Some of them have made it, some have not. The cav, of course, is coming over, but it's not quick enough. By that time, also, those have routed, and the forces are pretty much in Frederick's favor now. So many of them have routed or have been captured that we have just the remainder of Prince Charles' forces, but they don't really stand much of a chance because they're demoralized, seeing half their army rout, and more than half die. Not a few die, a lot get wounded, and the rest rout or get captured, demoralizing, and they're completely out of balance or out of touch with what's going on. Some don't even know what's going on. Prince Charles barely can fathom what's happening at the time, so he's just out of it, and he's just like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm losing this battle, because he was so confident he would win. So they are disorganized, they're just not ready, and Frederick the Great is smashing them, and then before you know it, they're all routing. And it's a great victory for him. He takes Silesia effectively with this battle, and he earns his name for himself. And I believe there's another famous battle that I don't quite remember the tale off the top of my head, the name of it, but he is famous for that one too, giving him the name of Frederick the Great instead of Frederick II, which is sort of intermixed during this episode. So he wins. He takes minimal losses. We'll see in the next slide. We have Frederick the Great again, and Prince Charles. So, starting with Frederick II, he has less than 1,200 dead. It's around 1,187, I think, was the total dead. And then he's got less than 5,200 wounded. Again, 5,160 something. And then he had 85 of his troops captured. Poor guys. I'm pretty sure they were released afterward. I'm hoping. Or maybe they were killed. I don't know. But it's only 85 men. Screw them. They got captured. They're cowards. And over here, Prince Charles himself, his army has 3,000 dead, which is more than twice the amount that died for Frederick. Ironically, when he had more than twice to be killed. Well, less than twice, but close to twice. 7,000 wounded, which is quite a few, so that's already 10,000 troops unable to fight at all for the future. And this is my favorite number, 12,000 captured. That's 22,000 troops unable to fight for him anymore from his original 66,000. So that brings him down to 44,000, which is now almost comparable to Frederick II's forces. Of course, the other ones that rout and don't even come back to him, deserters and such, really takes down his army. I don't know the exact numbers of that, though. But Prince Charles suffers a devastating defeat. Frederick II is taking Silesia, so good for him. Go Frederick. And Frederick is the winner. So what I want you to take from this battle, and I took from myself, is that what Frederick the Great did here is he used his strength against the supposed strategy to stop his strength from working, which was the long line. The 4-mile line made it almost impossible for Prince Charles to move his forces quickly enough to address Frederick the Great's flank. He knew that Prince Charles expected a flank, so he bluffed one on the right side and actually did a full-fledged one on the left side, meaning that he knew what was going on. Prince Charles didn't, and Prince Charles didn't have the time, the capacity, or any of the measures ready to stop this flank because it's 4 miles of distance. He set himself up by trying to prevent such a catastrophe from happening to him. He let the flank happen by trying to prevent the flank. So, what we can take by Frederick the Great is saying, hey, stealth works. Using the opponent's strategy against them, even better, because they suppose their strategy should work when they don't realize their strategy always has a flaw. Every strategy that ever existed has a flaw, and Frederick II used it wisely. Frederick the Great, that is, now. He's very great in my heart. The Prussia, of course, I love Prussia. Great history, and, later United Germany with Otto von Bismarck. Gotta bring him in. So, just use that next time you're fighting an opponent. Say you're in Medieval 2 or any other strategy game. You try to use that against them, even like chess or something. Think about what they think your strategy is. Think about how they're going to use it. See what they do against your strategy, and use their strategy, as the basis for your own strategy. Use your strengths. Use your strengths to downplay their attack against your strengths. That's the way of Frederick the Great. Thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye, my friends, and please tell me what you think about this new series. Goodbye, my friends.